An attack on one of us is an attack on all of us.
Baton Rouge is in shock and mourning after another mass shooting against police. Tonight, we are learning more about the fallen officers.
New information is emerging about the Marine Corps veteran who committed the killings and whether he's linked to online messages about oppression and police protests.
And this attack extends an emotional week for officers who serve in Dallas. We have reaction from people who are touched by both tragedies.
The news leader, broadcasting for all North Texas. Fox 4 News starts now.
The search for evidence in the deadly Baton Rouge police shootings has led investigators now to Kansas City, Missouri. Good evening, I'm Richard Ray.
And I'm Natalie Solis. Police sources identified the man who killed 3 officers and wounded 3 others as Gavin Long, an African-American Marine veteran who served in Iraq and turned 29 years old today. This evening, police surrounded a house listed to Gavin Long in Kansas City to search for evidence. Police are digging through his background for the motive. We also know tonight that authorities are investigating a video and online messages about oppression and police protests that may have been posted by the gunman under a pseudonym.
The shootings took the lives of 3 officers, Montrell Jackson, Matthew Gerald, and Brad Garofalo. 3 more were wounded, one of them in critical condition. The shooting deaths have sent shockwaves across the police community just 10 days after the murders of 5 police officers here in Dallas. Fox 4's James Rose joining us now with the latest from Baton Rouge. James.
Well, Richard, I can tell you I am at the very intersection where all this is said to have gone down. This is Old Hammond Highway. That's Airline Highway. The man was walking down Airline Highway, and you see where all the police lights are at this time. That's where he was walking down when someone called 911 because the man looked suspicious. But I can tell you, a lot of witnesses described this as something that sounded like it was right out of a war zone.
Shot fired, officer down, shot fired, officer down. Got a city officer down, shot fired. Shot fired on Airline. I know where the second shooting from.
Police radio traffic shatters the Sunday morning silence as one of the worst calls a cop can hear. Just after 8:30, Baton Rouge police and East Baton Rouge sheriff deputies responded to a suspicious person call. A man walking down a highway about a mile from the police department with an assault-style rifle wearing all black, including a mask. Arriving officers were met with gunfire. Cell phone video captured the chaos of other officers responding to the scene. Witnesses say there were repeated bursts of gunfire that lasted several minutes. 2 of the officers killed were Baton Rouge police. The third, a sheriff's deputy.
This is truly a sad day in Baton Rouge as we now meet again behind senseless killings.
Police barricaded off the entire area.
This investigation has got a lot of moving parts and pieces.
Colonel Mike Edmondson, head of the Louisiana State Police, took charge of the investigation, saying the man who shot the officers was killed by the officers on the scene. Fox 4 News has learned that in addition to a rifle, the gunman, Gavin Eugene Long, also had a handgun.
To me, this is not so much about gun control as it is about what's in men's hearts. And until we come together as a nation, as a people, to heal as a people, if we don't do that and this madness continues, we will surely perish as a people.
One of the officers, identified as Senior Corporal Montrell Jackson, was a 10-year veteran with the Baton Rouge Police Department and the father to a 4-month-old child.
We'll get through this as a community. But I want all of the BRPD officers to know that I support you. Every single one of them, I stand with you, I stand beside you, and we are going to get through this, and we're going to get through this together.
Louisiana Governor John Bel Edwards described the officers who were killed as real-life, everyday heroes.
We have to do better. An attack on one of us is an attack on all of us. And the people who carried out this act, the individuals, they do not represent the people of Baton Rouge or the state of Louisiana or what's best about our country.
Now, I can tell you one thing that they were adamant about is asking for prayers. prayers for the families of these officers that were killed, and prayers for the people here in the city of Baton Rouge. Natalie?
Well, James, I am sure they are getting a lot of them. Now, earlier, we had confirmation that police detained 2 people in a nearby town in connection with the investigation. Do you have any more information on those people, what their status might be now?
Well, at this point, you heard Colonel Mike Edmondson, the head of the state police, say, you know what, there's a lot of moving parts to this, and they are going to thoroughly investigate everything. But that one in particular, it was on the other side of the river. There were people that were dressed in black, all in black, and they had gone into a Walmart in Port Allen, which is just across the Mississippi River from here. And what they did was go in, change from their black attire, and came walking out. And when they did, Addis police quickly arrested them, believing that they may have something to do with this. And again, they're investigating anything and everything. And I spoke briefly with the colonel today, and he says, you know what, this is going to be an absolutely thorough investigation looking into every aspect of this man who was shot and killed by Baton Rouge police officers.
All right, James Rosen, I know you are there to follow every development. Thanks for your live report.
Joining me now to talk about Dallas and Baton Rouge and the state of policing in America is Pete Schulte. He's a defense attorney, a former full-time police officer, still a reserve police officer. Pete, the news this morning is another punch to the gut for all Americans, but certainly for those who are sworn to protect and serve.
Yeah, I mean, we after the week that we've had in Dallas, you know, I attended several of the funerals. I knew several of the officers that were impacted, from the shooting 10 days ago, and you kind of wonder, you know, where are we headed with our communities and with our police departments when these sort of things, these should not become regular, you know, happenstance, just keep coming up. And I mean, a lot of the law enforcement that I heard about from today from my law enforcement peers is that they feel a sense of helplessness because they can't control. And, you know, what I don't want to see happening is what we'll get into this, but with the Dallas shooting and now the Baton Rouge shooting, there's a lot of similarities between the perpetrators in these, and we've got to figure out why it's happening.
Okay, let's talk about that,
right,
because there are similarities. Also, the similarity that the first reports that there were multiple shooters. Now we think there's just the one lone gunman, but there's a lot of confusion when these things begin. They don't know what's happening, right?
Yeah, and I'll tell you, because depending on the type of weapon that are used in these type of attacks, it can make it feel like there are additional shooters. Happened in Dallas, now it's happened in Baton Rouge, and I'm not going to be surprised, Rich, if that the weapons that we're talking about here are automatic rifles, which means you pull the trigger and it's a blast of rounds, you know, just like that, versus having to pull the trigger each time you want to have a shot off. And if that's the case, our law enforcement are outgunned in any one of these situations because no police officer on the road carries anything but maybe an AR-15 style gun that's semi-automatic that they have to pull, and they can't combat this type of violence.
At least until the SWAT team gets there.
Right, the SWAT team can get out there, but I mean, you know, it can take 30 minutes, an hour for the SWAT team to get back, and if they don't do it, you know, if they don't get out there in time, I mean, the carnage is done.
Okay, let's talk about this a little bit more. Just the one shooter shot and killed, but police are looking for potential collaborators, co-conspirators. What would it entail? What would you have to do to actually cross the line and break the law in helping this guy?
It depends. I mean, law enforcement, they're doing two things. One is what you talked about. Is there anybody else involved with this situation? Anybody helped him get the guns, help him get the ammo, that they knew that the attack was pending and they didn't say anything? The other thing that they're really going to focus in on is why did he do it? And they're going to find out information from his social media sites, his computers, his cell phones, anything that's in his house. Again, this is a suspect that came from another state to come to Baton Rouge, probably obviously for what has been going on there over the last year. But they really need to figure out what is the trigger mechanism for these individuals so they can try to stop it. I mean, how do we stop these type of attacks? When you have somebody who wants to go out, who wants to die, you cannot stop them because they're going to keep doing what they're doing until they're dead. And that's exactly what happened here.
I've seen my other friends in the police community tweeting tonight, for example, when are government officials going to do something about this? But what can we do to prevent these kind of lone wolf attacks?
You know, the question is going to come down to is, and the police departments I know in Dallas, it hasn't been very specific about the type of weapons involved, neither have we learned about in Baton Rouge. I mean, fully automatic rifles are illegal. They're illegal for a reason. So ATF, FBI are going to be looking at those things. But, you know, if there's a will to get those type of weapons, they're going to do this type of activity. You can't stop people who are willing to die for their thwarted beliefs. I don't understand why people think attacking police officers who are just doing their jobs is going to solve any problems. It's only going to make police officers more on edge as they do their jobs, and that's not good for anybody.
We had one of the widows say at a funeral today that speaking to the killer here in Dallas, you have made us stronger. And I am seeing Black Lives Matter, people coming out and tweeting this has got to stop, civil rights leaders all over the country. It is in some sense bringing us together on this issue, at least in my mind. What do you think?
I think so. I mean, I'm sympathetic to Black Lives Matter with what they're trying to do. I'm never sympathetic to violence, and they know that. I mean, there needs to be people on all sides of the debate coming forward and saying violence is not the answer. If you continue to do this, it actually sets those groups back of what they're trying to do if they're trying to get violence to go forward with it. So, you know, it's going to be interesting to see what happens next with the Black Lives Matter, and we'll wait and see. But this type of violence has got to stop.
Troubling time. Thank you, Pete Schulte. Thank you for being here.
Of course.
Governor Greg Abbott tweeted in response to what's happening in Louisiana. He says, I ask for Texans to pray for officers killed and injured in Baton Rouge. It's time for us to unite as Americans to say no more. Dallas Police Chief David Brown tweeted this morning, our thoughts and prayers are with Baton Rouge Police. Hashtag pray for Baton Rouge. And after a week of police funerals in Dallas, Mayor Mike Rawlings had this to say about Baton Rouge, quote, this must stop. Violence against our police officers under any circumstance is not acceptable and poses a grave threat to all of us. Those peacefully protesting police across the country must swiftly condemn this type of violence against law enforcement.
People are still stopping by a memorial outside Dallas Police Headquarters to express their support and their condolences for the 5 Dallas police officers who were killed 10 days ago.
And as you can imagine, many were stunned and saddened by the news out of Baton Rouge. Fox 4's Allison Harris is at Dallas Police Headquarters. Allison.
Well, Rich and Natalie, the memorial has new meaning tonight as people pay their respects for both Dallas police officers and now Baton Rouge police officers. The Dallas police shooting has taken an emotional toll on police officers and people everywhere. We saw those wounds fresh today in the hours after the Baton Rouge shooting. A Texas Highway Patrol trooper broke down crying right in front of us. People at the memorial began to console him as he said, it is time to come together. It is time. We also watched people continue to give police officers hugs. People from states like Maine and Virginia came to the memorial Sunday, sharing well wishes for police officers and communities all across the country.
Our nation is on edge. We don't know what's going to happen next or when. But we must go on, be strong. We can't let them win. We got to be strong.
I go to bed every night and get in my bed and feel safe knowing that they're out there looking out for me. And then there's those that are out there that are looking to make things bad for so many of us. It's just really sad. It's really a shame. I wish we could just put aside our differences.
We don't want to see anybody killed. Not black, not white, not brown, yellow. Nobody. Just get along.
And the memorial would have been gone here tonight, but Dallas police and the library charged with preserving all of this decided to keep it up through Tuesday evening so people can continue to come out, pay their respects, and mourn the loss of those 5 Dallas police officers and now the officers in Baton Rouge. Rich and Natalie.
Allison Harris at Dallas Police Headquarters. Thank you, Allison.
And we'll have another live update from Baton Rouge at 9:30, including part of today's address to the nation by President Obama. We are also following the latest developments at fox4news.com.
Transitioning into weather now, we could hit our first triple-digit heat of the year this week. Fox 4's meteorologist Ali Turiano joining us now with a very hot forecast. Hi, Ali.
Hey, Rich. Good evening, everyone. Can you believe it? We haven't hit 100 yet. It sure has felt like it for weeks now, but we've been just below that century mark. And I think over the next few days, we'll actually get over that hump. Temperatures right now still near 90 for Dallas, Fort Worth, but most of us have dropped back into the mid 80s. We've got a few clouds in our southeastern counties, but overall mostly clear skies is what we will see tonight. And I think just overall very warm with that south breeze. 89 still in Carrollton. Houston, 90 for Dallas, 91 in Fort Worth, and a slightly cooler 86 currently in Frisco. Winds about 8 to 12 miles an hour for us tonight, and then that wind about the same tomorrow, maybe just a little bit stronger getting into the afternoon. So kind of a repeat performance, starting out in the mid and upper 70s, warming quickly into the mid and upper 90s tomorrow. But by midweek is when we'll see those triple digits, and it looks like they're going to stick around for a while. Your hot forecast going through the week. We'll talk more about it in just a bit.
Still ahead, we talked to the family of a corrections officer killed in an Abilene prison. Their plea to stop the violence against law enforcement.
I assure you, all of us, we just want to go home first, but we want to take care of our public.
Security is more than ever at the top of the concern list at the Republican National Convention. What police are doing to make sure that people attending and their police officers are safe.
Plus, a scary moment at a North Texas gas station when a car catches fire near the pumps.